What's up, world? This is your guy, Guitar K, and today we're going to be talking about living a balanced life. Look, man, we are all beings on this planet, and what make up our beings is mental, physical, and spiritual. And if you're not building up all three of these things constantly, daily, that means at any given moment, you're not whole. You're incomplete. I mean, look, that's three different things. That's, again, mental, spiritual, physical, whatever order you want to look at it. However, look, we need them all. You got to be constantly building on to all three of these things. You have to be intentional about it. You can't be slacking in your mental. You can't be slacking in your physical. You can't be not paying attention to your spiritual. If you do, at any given time, you're out here running around as only 1/3 of a person or 2/3 of a person. Look, man, we need to be whole at all times. That's the only way you're going to be the best you, is to be up on all three of your beings. Again, your mental being, your physical being, your spiritual being. Don't neglect any of these areas, man. You got to think of it like a three-legged stool. And if don't have all three legs, the thing's going to be wobbly. It's going to fall over. It's not going to be strong. You need to be strong in all areas. Your mental, your physical, and your spiritual all need to be strong. And again, you got to be intentional. If you're not, you will be unbalanced. You're going to have holes in your life. You're going to be incomplete. Look, man, you're going to underachieve. You will never reach your full potential if you're not strong in all of these areas. You're going to settle for cheap fixes and instant gratifications and try to fill these holes with temporary fixes, man. Look, we are all guilty. And just imagine if you're dating someone or if you're married to someone who's not complete. If they're not up on their physical, spiritual, and mental. That's just a whole filled relationship right there, man. Look, this is a real important topic that we don't never pay attention to, man. We all say it a lot, mind, body, soul, mind, body, and soul. But look, words, we all know, man. Look, man, it's about walking, not about talking. Look, you can say mind, body, and soul, but are you building on to those things? Look, man. I'm talking about exercising for that physical. I'm talking about reading and getting new information, paying close attention to your mental health. I'm talking about showing gratitude, showing patience, building on to your spirit, being kind, being gentle, not always looking at everything all negatively. Look, again, man, this is a very important topic. Why would you want to be an incomplete person? Why would you only be 1/3 of the person that you can be? I always talk about you living your best life, but you're out of shape. But your mental health ain't where it need to be. How are you living your best life if you're not up in all three of these areas? If you don't got all three legs on the stool standing firm, you can never be living your best life, man. Look. But the only way to be whole is to be constantly working on ourselves, constantly building on ourselves from the inside out. Because even though the physical is what you see, it starts on the inside, man. You got to take care of yourself. It's what you eat. It's going to see the doctor. It's going to make sure everything is working properly. Then comes the exercise, going for some runs, taking some walks, maybe doing some swimming, putting on some nice clothes, hygiene, smelling nice. But it all starts from taking care of yourself from the inside first. And then the mental. Who you surround yourself with, not allowing people to talk to you any kind of way. The spiritual, are you grateful? Do you show gratitude? Or you just always so negative about everything? Are you able to be kind? Are you able to be patient? Look, man, these are real important things. And again, it ain't about talking about it. It's about doing it. It's going to show in your life. Look, when your spirit ain't right, it's going to show. When your physical ain't right, it's definitely going to show. And when your mental ain't right, it's definitely going to show, man. Look. Think of terms like hitting on all cylinders or a well-oiled machine or working like clockwork. Look, man, when all three of these things is working in harmony, look, it's going to show in your life. It's going to show in your material gain. It's going to show in your attitude. It's going to show in your walk. It's going to show in your speech. Look, man, again, mental, physical, spiritual, mind, body, soul, however you want to call it. Don't neglect no areas. Because so many times, man, people be ripping and running in the rat race to work, only focusing on on financing, but then the family life going to thing, or their physical health going down. Look, man, you got to make it happen. And I know people say, well, that's easier said than done. How you supposed to do this and how you supposed to, I don't know. That's for you to figure it out, man. I don't know. Look, man, you got to sit down and map that thing out. But at the end of the day, it has to be done. Think about how many, let's just give some real world examples here, man. Think about how many superstars that had it all. From the outside, it looked like they had it all, but they still committed suicide, or they just couldn't get off the drugs. They were still trying to fill holes in their life because they wasn't paying attention to every part. Like I said, when you don't build it up naturally, you try to get instant gratification and quick fixes. Oh man, so many of our superstars have fell to the wayside. From the outside looking in, it looked like they had everything, but something was still missing. Those holes were still there, because if you're not intentional about building up that mind, intentional about building up your spirit, intentional about physically building up yourself, you're never going to feel whole. You're never going to be your true self, man. Look, I hope you're hearing me, man. Take care of all three parts of your body, man. Look. I had a friend go to the hospital just the other day. We always talk about, and we're in recovery together. We always talking about our program. We always talking about how we never have to go back to that life. And we even say, like, you got to take care of yourself physically, though. You got to go to see your doctor. Because you can't be, if you're not alive to be in recovery, then what's the point of even being in recovery? You got to take care of yourself, man. Look, man, these are things that you gotta think about, man. Like I said, I talked about all the rich people that from the outside looking in the mansion windows, it looks okay, but they in there killing themselves. They in there getting high. They in there chasing this and that, not being faithful, not cheating on their wives, the spirit ain't right. You can look and see they got a nasty spirit. Maybe their bank accounts is way up here, but the spirit's life is down here. Man, look, everything need to be even across the board. And the only way to do that is to be intentional. You can't just talk about it. You can't just be all here post talking about mind, body, and soul, mind, body, and soul. It ain't about just talking about it, man. You got to really be about doing that thing, man. Look, man. You will never feel whole or complete, and you will always be chasing and be in a chaos and confusion when these things is out of whack. But when they in balance, things just tend to run smooth. You feel more calm. You're able to sit through the storms. You're not rocked by everything that comes and everything that goes. It don't matter what nobody is or not doing, because when you're strong in your physical, mental, and spirit, you're able to stand. It's like you got on a full armor of God. Because like that scripture, people get that scripture kind of confused. People think they're supposed to put on the full armor of God and go out here and fight. But if you read the whole scripture, after it tells you to put on all that armor, it says to stand. And when you're strong physically, mentally, and spiritually, you understand that all you got to do is just stand. The world going to do what it's going to do. Can you stand and let it do what it's going to do without it changing you, or without you having to ripping and running and chasing and thinking you need everything that everybody else got, and just understand that everything you need is in you already. And anything else that you get is just a bonus. You become grateful. You become appreciative. Look, man, you show patience. You show kindness. You start spreading love. You don't react to everything. You understand that everything is not for you, and you don't need everything that everybody else got. You understand that maybe the only reason that the grass is greener over there is because it's fake grass. But look, man, like I said, work on your spiritual today. A lot of people don't work on the spirit because you can't see it. But look, it's like the wind. It's there, man. And when things start blowing you around in life, if you're not strong in spirit, you get blown around with it. Look, man, I am so grateful to finally start to becoming a whole trinity of a person. Because, in the Bible, in Genesis, in the beginning, it said that we was created in God's image. And if you understand that God, he created us in his image, and he's a holy trinity. So if you figure us, we like a holy trinity. We mind, body, and spirit. If you're not taking care of all three of those things, you're not taking care of yourself. If you're only taking care of your physical, you're not taking care of yourself. If you're only taking care of your spirit, you're not taking care of yourself. If you're only taking care of your mental, you're not taking care of yourself. If you're not taking care of all three of these areas, at the end of the day, man, you're not taking care of yourself. You got to learn to take care of all three areas, man. Like I said, we are created in God's image. Don't let that go over your head. And it says, let us create man in our image. It uses plural, it uses three. So if there's three things, that means all three need to be taken care of. Think about it like you're taking care of your car. If you're only taking care of the outside of it, but the engine's in some trash, you ain't got a good car. Or if you're only taking care of the engine, but you let the body rust, you got some trash. Look, man, you got to take care of the whole thing to reap the whole benefits and to have the true value. And that's the same thing about our lives. Take care of yourself completely. Again, man, it's not just saying the words. It's not just saying mind, body, and soul. Again, man, we taking care of our mental, we taking care of our physical, and we taking care of our spirit today. This is your guy, Guitar K. Be more